Hello, boys and girls. This is Miss Voelker. I was going to remember our book that we were reading called Helen Keller's Teacher, Miss Durrance's class. Remember, she's getting ready. She's finally getting to go to school. So I'm going to read about 10 minutes, and hopefully I can do this every few days or whatever, and then we can still do our story, okay? Called A Second Chance. And here's a picture of her with her teacher, her principal. And so Annie's school days began, the days that she dreamed of for so many years. The reality, however, was nothing like her dreams. Annie was fully 14, a very ignorant 14. She couldn't read or write or do sums. She knew nothing about English or geography or history. She was forced to begin at the beginning, along with the babies, or so they seemed to her. A room full of 6 years old and one big, clumsy, foolish feeling, Annie Sullivan. She felt so miserable, out of place. The other girls at school gave her a nickname to show their scorn, Big Annie. And Big Annie, they called her at every opportunity. Annie went through her days bewildered, rebellious, disappointed, always ready for a fight. Each night she went to bed wanting to weep. She pounded her pillows instead, crying, I hate them all. Annie had been at school for some months now. She had mastered the art of reading raised prints with her fingers. She could both read and write in the coded dot system of Braille. But Annie couldn't spell, and she didn't want to learn. What did it matter if she used an E one time and an A the next? Everyone with any sense knew what she meant, and surely that was the important thing. That's what she meant. Besides, it took too long to memorize all those words. Her English teacher tried to explain, there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things, Annie. It just takes a little patience, a little discipline. The words meant nothing to Annie. Then the teacher ran out of patience. She tried another way, but it was a way that hurt. She took to reading Annie's written compositions aloud, and at every misspelled word, she would stop, and almost pick the word off the page. In a scornful voice, she pronounced it slowly and spelled it out, underlining each incorrect letter. The other children thought this was great fun, and in the pause that the teacher was careful to supply, they all burst into laughter. Each laugh was like a blow, but Annie just held her breath and cursed them roundly to herself. She sat through the torment week after week, and one day the laughter was especially loud, especially cruel. So Annie couldn't take it anymore. That's right, she burst out, jumping from her chair. Laugh, you silly things, for that's all you can do to the Queen's taste. To the Queen's taste was an expression Annie had picked up at Truxbury. It meant nothing, really, but the teacher thought Annie was talking about her. Leave the class, she told Annie. Go sit on the stairs, and I'll see you later. Annie was bold with rage, clumsy with it. As she stumbled down the aisle, she knocked over an empty desk, and it skittered out of line. Again, the teacher misunderstood. She was sure that Annie had done this on purpose. Come back here at once and straighten that desk, she ordered. Then leave the room quickly. It was simply too much, and Annie kept on going. Annie, the teacher's voice threatened. Annie continued until she got to the door. Then she whirled around. I will not sit on those stairs, she announced coldly, and I will never come back to this room either. With a bang of the door, she was gone. Of course, the incident couldn't be overlooked, and Annie was called down to the office of the director, Mr. A. He tried to make her see how rude she had been to the teacher. And that will never do, Annie, he told her. But it's her fault, Annie said hotly. That's not the point, Annie, Mr. A replied. A pupil must be polite to his teacher, or how could we run a school? You will have to apologize. Annie refused. Hadn't she been the wronged one? And she was demanding no apology. That will be enough, Annie, Mr. A sighed. Go to your room and stay there until you're called. And think everything over I've said. He thought bleakly as the door closed behind Annie. What shall I do? There's no room for her here, really. She's too different, too wild, but send her back there. There was a knock at the door, and in walked one of the best teachers, Miss Mary Moore. I've heard about the trouble with Annie, she said crisply. Will the child apologize? I don't think so, Mr. A replied. Just what I expected, Miss Moore commented. Too much pride. Mr. A looked puzzled. What she needs is some personal attention, the teacher said. She's bright enough. We all know that. It would be a shame to lose her now when she's come this far. Let me try to work with her. So Annie was given another chance, and Miss Moore set aside some time every week, during which the two studied or talked or walked companionably across the ground. Soon Annie looked forward eagerly to that hour. Oh, she'd been distrustful at first, suspicious, and she tested the woman thoroughly. She'd say any rude thing that came to mind and then wait for a reaction. But Miss Moore never seemed to notice. It was as if she never heard it. Soon Annie began to feel quite foolish. It was hard to be nasty to someone who never got nasty in return, someone who seemed to like you no matter what you said or did. So Annie stopped being suspicious and gave herself over to the charm of this kind new friend. When she did that, everything began to improve. Her spelling and her manners, for that was the most important lesson Miss Moore had to teach Annie. Annie watched and listened and began to imitate Miss Moore's soft voice, her gentle ways, her kindly interest in other people. Gradually, Annie stopped bristling so easily. She was learning to guard her tongue, too, and trying desperately not to flare out the other girls when they teased her. Slowly, the manners she imitated became part of her, and as she changed, the other girls began to warm up to this Miss New Annie. Then one day, Annie woke to a strange feeling inside of her. She was eager for the day to begin, eager to go to class and eager to talk to the others at lunch. The feeling was happiness. For the first time, Annie was really happy at Perkins. Okay, so we'll stop here. Hopefully, you're enjoying the story, and we'll be able to read some more another day. Have a great day, kids. Bye.